My name is Claire, and I live in America, in a quiet neighborhood not far from Cleveland. The street is called Maple, and my house sits halfway down, between a brick church and a small park where kids chase each other until the sun drops behind the elm trees. The house is mine. My grandmother, Ruth, left it to me when she passed away, and I have the deed in a folder with my birth certificate and my passport. I painted the front door a calm blue last spring, the color of sky over Lake Erie on a clear day. I work at a bakery downtown, and I save every extra dollar in a glass jar on my dresser. I pay the taxes, I mow the grass, and I fix what breaks. It is not a grand house, but it is my safe place, my first true home. When my mom, Linda, called from Detroit, she sounded small and tired. Rent had gone up again, and she could not keep up. She asked if she and my stepdad, Mark, could stay for a while. She said it softly, like a question that hoped for a yes. Mark had 2 kids who came over a lot, Tyler, who was 16, and Chloe, who was 14. They needed space too, she said. I looked at the blue door, then at the empty rooms I had not yet furnished, and I said yes. It felt like the right thing to do. Family is family. I told myself we would set rules, share chores, and make dinner together like the families on TV that laugh through the mess, and then clean up as music plays. I believed kindness would be enough. The first week was smooth. Mom folded towels into neat stacks, and she took care of the plants on the windowsill. Mark said thank you and carried in boxes with practice strength. Tyler helped me carry the old couch to the curb, and Chloe asked if she could hang string lights in the den. We ate pizza on paper plates and drank iced tea. I told them the bakery made the best cinnamon rolls in the city. Mom hugged me before bed, and I stood at my bedroom window and watched the streetlights come on, one by one. The house felt full, and I thought, good, I can share. I can share this house and still be myself. The second week grew louder. Tyler liked music that made the floor shake, even close to midnight. Chloe borrowed a green sweater from my closet and left it on the back steps in the rain. Mark rolled in a giant TV and set it on the old oak cabinet my grandmother had polished for 40 years. He laughed and said, "Now this room makes sense," as if it had not made sense until he filled it with his things. He called my small framed paintings craft fair art, and he said he might store his tools in the living room corner because the garage felt too damp. Mom told me I was being sensitive. I told myself to breathe. Households are noisy at the start, I thought. They settle. Money came up in small ways that did not feel small. Mark said he would cover the internet bill, but when it arrived, he said his check was late and asked me to float it just this once. It was $78, and I paid it because the bakery schedule had been kind and I had the cash. Tyler needed $20 for a school trip, and Chloe asked for $12 for a movie with friends. Mom said she would pay me back on Friday. Friday came and went, and no one said anything. I stood at the kitchen counter, the bill under my hand, and wondered if kindness was supposed to feel like this, like a knot that would not loosen. I wrote out house rules on a sheet of paper and stuck it to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a lighthouse. I kept the words simple because clear words help. Quiet hours 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. Ask before borrowing. Clean as you go. No shoes on the rug. Put cash for shared bills in the jar by the sink. I drew a small star next to the last rule and wrote, "I will show the receipts. We will track it together." I wanted fairness. I wanted calm. I wanted to protect the house that had protected me. Mark read the rules and smiled in a way that did not reach his eyes. "You run a tight ship," he said. Tyler snorted. Chloe took a picture of the list and sent it to someone, and then laughed into her phone. Mom sighed and said, "We'll do our best." The night it broke open felt like winter pressing against the glass. Snow fell in soft sheets, and the street was quiet, as if the whole city held its breath. I had just finished cleaning the kitchen after baking a batch of blueberry muffins for the next morning's shift. The clock read 10:23 p.m. Music burst from Tyler's room, close to the ceiling, bass rolling through the vent like a drum. I knocked on his door and asked him to turn it down. He rolled his eyes and turned it down a little. 10 minutes later, it was loud again. I asked again. He slammed his door, and the frame shook. I went back to my room and tried to sleep, but the noise was a stain that would not wash out. I lay there and thought of the deed with my name and of my grandmother's careful hands and of the way the front door had looked when I first painted it, clean and bright, a promise. In the morning, Mark spread out papers on the kitchen table as if it were his desk. He said he was budgeting for a new gaming chair, a $250 model he found online at a discount. The words came out of me before I could catch them. "We still need to talk about the internet bill and groceries," I said. "The jar is empty." Mark leaned back and laughed. He said I had a landlord tone, as if I were scolding strangers. He told me to relax. Mom came in with a mug of coffee and gave me a look that said, "Please don't start." I swallowed the rest of my words and felt them settle in my chest like small rocks. That evening, I called a lawyer. His name was James Porter, and his voice was steady. He asked me to bring the deed and proof I paid the taxes. He explained in plain terms what it means to be the owner of a home and what it means to allow others to live there. He did not speak in hard words. He said I could set rules, and I could ask people to leave if they would not live by them. His fee for a consultation was $300. I did the math in my head and said yes. Peace has a price, and sometimes you pay it to understand the ground under your feet. On my way home from his office, I stopped by a locksmith shop and asked about new keys. The woman behind the counter, Sarah, wrote down a quote for rekeying the locks, $120 for the front and back, keys included. I folded the paper and put it in my wallet. I was not planning to change the locks that day. I was only gathering facts, like a traveler marking a map. The sky over the lake was the same blue as my door when I pulled into the driveway. Lights glowed in the front window. My house looked warm and alive. I wanted to keep it that way. We ate dinner in a loose circle around the kitchen island. I had made pasta with tomatoes, garlic, and basil. I set a bowl in front of Mom, a bowl in front of Mark, a bowl for Tyler, and a bowl for Chloe. I said we needed a house meeting after we ate, and I said it with a voice that surprised me. Steady, simple, no extra words. Mark kept eating. Tyler twitched a smile at Chloe. Mom nodded once. We finished, and I gathered the plates and set them in the sink. I turned off the stove, wiped the counter, and dried my hands on a clean towel. I put the deed on the table. I put a short letter next to it that James had helped me write. I asked them to read both. The letter said this: "I own this house. I welcome you here. These are the rules. Please sign the house rules by Friday. If you cannot live by them, you will need to find another place within 30 days. It was not angry. It was clear. It was my voice written down. I looked at Mom. I told her I loved her. I told her I want us to work. I told her I would help her as much as I could, but I would not lose my home to chaos. She held the edges of the paper and did not look up for a long time. Outside, the snow kept falling, soft and steady, a quiet world trying to show us how to be. The morning after the house meeting, I woke before dawn and sat at the small table by the kitchen window. The sky over America was still dark, and the park across Maple Street looked like a quiet lake of shadow. I made coffee and lined up my papers like a baker lines up trays. First the deed with my name, then the tax receipts, then the letter James Porter helped me write. I smoothed each page with my palm the way I smooth dough before it rises. I kept a pen beside the stack, as if a pen could be a kind of shield. In the jar by the sink, a few coins and a single crumpled dollar lay, like a weak promise. I took the coins out and counted them. 73 cents. I put them back and felt the glass chill my fingers. Mom came in with soft steps. She wore a gray sweater and held her mug like it could warm more than her hands. "You're up early," she said. "I have to be at the bakery by 6, I said. I wanted to leave these out. Please read the letter again. I did not add "please sign it" because I had said enough. She read in silence. When she finished, she set the paper down and looked at me in a way that made me feel both seen and far away. "I remember when you were a little girl," she said. "You put labels on everything, crayons, boxes, even your shoes. You liked knowing what belonged where." "This is like that," I said. "I need to know what belongs where. I need to know who cares for this house with me." She nodded and said nothing else. Mark walked in, rubbing his beard and yawning like he had built the dawn himself. He saw the papers and laughed. "More forms," he said. "You think you're a lawyer now?" "No," I said. "I have a lawyer. His name is James Porter." I kept my voice calm. "I have to go to work. We'll talk tonight." I picked up my bag and my keys, and I felt the cool metal like a promise I could hold. At the bakery, the ovens gave the room a steady heat that felt like safety. I worked the morning rush with Emily in my ear on the phone during breaks. She lives in Chicago, but a phone can make a city feel close. "You did the right thing," she said again and again. "You were fair. You were clear." I told her about the jar and the empty promises. I told her about the music thumping through the vents. I told her I had a quote from the locksmith, Sarah, for $120 to change the locks if I needed to. "Only if you need to," Emily said. "Let's hope they sign." I sprinkled sugar over the last tray of muffins and tried to picture the house apiece. The picture came and went like steam on a cold window. When my shift ended, I walked 2 blocks to a small office where James worked. The door had his name painted in neat black letters, the kind that look like they will not fade. He welcomed me in with a nod, and we went over the steps again. He liked simple words, which I liked too. He said ownership is a set of rights and a set of duties. He said my guests either agree to house rules or make new plans. He said I had been kind and clear. He kept the tone steady, not angry, not soft. He printed a formal notice for me, in case it came to that. The cost for his time was another $150, and I paid by card. The number made me wince, but the feeling of standing on a firm floor was worth it. On my way out, I thanked him. He said the law can be a map. "But you still have to walk the road, Claire," he added. "You're doing that." Back at the house, the living room felt like a showroom for Mark's giant TV. The oak cabinet under it looked tired, like an old friend carrying a load it never asked for. Tyler sat on the couch with a game controller in his hands, the screen flashing, a war of colors. Chloe lay on the rug with her phone over her face, laughing at something only she could hear. Mom was in the kitchen, stirring a pot of soup. The air smelled like tomatoes and basil, a comfort I did not trust yet. I put my bag in my room, then came back to the table and set the deed and the letter out where everyone could see them. "We need to talk," I said. Mark paused his game, but did not look up. "Talk away," he said. "I own this house," I said. "I have welcomed you here, but the noise, the bills, and the taking of my things have to stop. I put the rules on the fridge. They are simple. If you want to stay, sign the rules by Friday. If not, you have 30 days to make other plans." Tyler made a clicking sound with his tongue. "This is dumb," he said. Chloe rolled onto her side and looked at me with bright, bored eyes. "You're making a big deal out of nothing," she said. "It's a sweater." "It's not about a sweater," I said. "It's about respect." I kept my voice even. "It's also about money. The internet bill is $78. Groceries were $112 this week. If you use the house, you share the cost. Put cash in the jar. I will show you every receipt." Mark stood and pushed the controller into his pocket, the way a person might pocket a knife. "You like numbers," he said. "Fine. Here's a number. We're staying. That's the end." He tapped the deed with a finger. "And stop waving this around like it makes you a queen." "It makes me the owner," I said. He stared at me for a long second, then put both hands on the back of a chair and smiled a slow smile. "Call your lawyer," he said. "Let's see what your friend James says to that." "I already did," I said. I picked up the letter, the one with the Friday deadline, and placed a copy in front of Mom, Mark, Tyler, and Chloe. "This is the next step if you won't sign. I don't want to be hard. I want to be clear." Mom swallowed and looked at the paper. "Mark," she said, very soft, "maybe we should just sign. It's her house." He gave her a quick look that made the room colder. That night, after dishes and a tense silence, I took a walk around the block. The snow had melted into thin lines along the curb. Streetlights made small gold islands on the pavement. I passed the brick church and nodded to the stone angel by the steps. I said hello to Mrs. Green, our neighbor, who was carrying in bags from her car. She asked how I was, and I told her I was fine because that is the answer people give on the sidewalk. But when she touched my arm and said, "If you ever need anything, you knock," I believed she meant it. On the way back, I looked at my blue door and thought of Europe, the trip Emily and I keep daydreaming about. I promised myself that one day I would see a narrow street in London or Paris, and I would walk it without fear. But tonight, the road I had to walk was Maple Street, and the door I had to open was my own. The next morning, I made a budget on a yellow pad. Across the top, I wrote, "House in March," and underlined it twice. I listed income from the bakery. $13 an hour, about $520 a week before taxes, if I kept my hours. I listed bills, $78 internet, $112 groceries, $45 gas and electric for a mild week, but closer to $90 in real winter, $35 water, $300 for the last bit of the roof loan, $150 for James, $120 if I needed Sarah to rekey the locks. I added a line for House Joy Fund and put $25, a small number, but a number that reminded me life is more than bills. I made a separate line for Help Mom because I still wanted to help her, just not at the cost of losing myself. When I added it all up, I could make it work if people paid their share. If they didn't, I would still make it work, but it would hurt. I closed the pad and felt like I had drawn a map in pencil. I could erase and adjust, but at least there was a path. Friday came like a drum beat I could hear in my bones. I set the house rules on the table with a pen beside them. I went to work and piped frosting onto cupcakes shaped like little roses. I came home at noon, wiped my feet on the mat that says home, and walked in with my heart in my throat. The papers were still there. The pen was still there. No signatures. In the jar, someone had put $2. I stood for a long time and looked at those $2. They were both crumpled singles, like apologies that had been carried around and then dropped at the last minute. I called James and told him. He said I had done my part. He said the next step was formal notice with dates and a clear deadline. He said we could send it today. I took a deep breath and said yes. After the call, I phoned Sarah the locksmith. "I may need you next week," I said. "Not today, but soon." She told me she could come on Tuesday afternoon if I confirmed by Monday morning. I wrote, "Call Sarah by 9 a.m. Monday" on the yellow pad. That evening, I cooked dinner again because eating together keeps a piece of us human. I made chicken and rice with lemon. I set 4 plates on the island. When everyone had a plate, I placed an envelope near Mark's elbow. "This is the formal notice," I said. "You have 30 days to sign and agree, or to find another place. If you sign, you can stay. If not, you will need to go." He did not pick up the envelope. Tyler pushed rice around with his fork. Chloe scrolled her phone. Mom blinked fast and whispered, "Claire, I'm sorry." I wanted to tell her she did not need to be sorry. I wanted to tell her I only needed her to be brave. But I knew those words could not live in the air yet. They would fall to the floor and break. After dinner, I went in my room and closed the door. I sat on the edge of my bed and listened to the house the way people listen to music. Pipes hummed. The furnace clicked off. Somewhere, a faint laugh rose and faded. I took the keys from my pocket and laid them on my nightstand. I touched each one: front door, back door, mailbox. They were small pieces of metal, but together they were the shape of a life. I thought of America in winter, of my blue door, of Europe someday. I thought of my name on the deed, and my hands on the paintbrush, and my feet on my own floors. I thought of the map I had drawn and the road I was walking. I was not rich. I was not fearless. But I was clear. And clarity, I was learning, is its own kind of strength. The formal notice left a stillness in the house that felt heavy, like snow packed tight on a roof. No shouting, no slammed doors, just a new careful silence that made every sound sharper. The tick of the kitchen clock, the drip of the faucet, the soft thud of mail on the mat. I kept moving because movement kept me from fear. I cleaned the stovetop until it shone. I labeled boxes in the hallway so there would be no confusion when the time came. I put fresh tulips, $9 from the corner store, on the oak cabinet under the giant TV because beauty is a kind of courage too. Money, became a list I could touch. I pulled out the yellow pad each night and wrote down every dollar. Internet, $78. Groceries, $96 this week because I planned simple meals. Gas and electric, $62 on the latest bill, a small mercy. I slipped $25 into the House Joy Fund jar and felt a brief, stubborn glow. I called Miguel, a handyman a friend from the bakery trusted, and booked him to fix the back gate and the loose cabinet hinge. He said Tuesday morning would work. His wife, Anna, followed up with a neat text that made me feel seen. I liked their steadiness. I needed steady. The house rules stayed on the table beside a black pen. Mark did not sign. Tyler and Chloe did not sign. Mom looked at the paper sometimes like a person reading whether they already knew. She started packing little things. Her books, the scarf her aunt sent from New York, a small bowl where she kept spare change. I wanted to ask her to come with me to the bakery on Saturday and drink coffee in the back while I filled donuts. I wanted to say, let's be a two-person team again. But the words were shy. Instead, I made soup and left a bowl for her with a note. Warm on low. Love, C. She sent back a quiet thank you and tucked the note into her pocket like a receipt for a future we had not paid for. On Monday morning, I confirmed with Sarah the locksmith.
Tuesday at 2, she said.
It will be $120 for the front and back doors, keys included. I said yes. I stood at the blue door a long time after the call, my palm flat on the paint, feeling the cool. Keys are small, I thought, but they are proof. Proof that I could choose safety without apology. Proof that I could keep the house kind without letting it be soft in the wrong places. The thought did not make me hard. It made me clean, like a clear line down a page. When Tuesday came, Miguel fixed the gate for $65 and the hinge for $20. He worked fast and left no mess. Sarah arrived at 2 with a tidy case and a calm voice. In and out, she said, and she was. New locks clicked into place like a spine settling straight. I tested the keys, front, back, smooth turns both, and paid her in dollars, my hands steady. That night, I slept with the window cracked and the city air moving over the tulips, and the quiet in my house finally sounded like rest. They left on a Wednesday when the sky over America was the pale gray of wet paper. Mark carried the giant TV out first, with Tyler shuffling backward down the steps and Chloe holding the door like a stagehand. Mom moved slower, taping lids and writing labels with a shaky hand. Books, kitchen, photos. I stood on the porch of my house on Maple Street, hands in my coat pockets, feeling the curve of the new keys like small anchors.
Mark didn't look at me when he passed.
Tyler muttered something I chose not to catch. Chloe kept her eyes on the driveway as if the asphalt could answer her. Mom came last, hugging a shoebox with a ribbon around it. She touched my arm, almost a bird landing. Thank you for the time, she said. I nodded because it was true, and also because there was nothing else that fit in the air. After the last box, the house took a long, deep breath, the way a person does after holding a thought for too long. I walked room to room, naming each space in my head like I was making a map. Living room, kitchen, hallway, my bedroom, the small room that will be a study. I picked up loose change from under the sofa cushion, $1.37, and set it in the jar by the sink. I found my green sweater folded in the laundry basket and smiled the kind of smile that forgives without forgetting. The tulips were fading, but even the droop looked brave. I opened the back door to a light wind and the clean click of the new lock, and I heard Miguel's gate hold steady in its hinge. It felt like the house and I were speaking the same quiet language again. I made coffee and called Emily.
It's done, I said.
They're gone. She whooped so loud I had to pull the phone from my ear. I'm proud of you, she said. Do something small to mark it. Buy a candle, or a cake, or a ridiculous plant. We did the math for what I could spare. After bills, after the formal notice fee, after Miguel's $85 and Sarah's $120, I still had $62 left for the week. I told Emily I could allow $15 for a small thing. Then get a candle that smells like lemon, she said. You always liked lemon. I walked to the corner store, bought a $12 lemon candle and a loaf of crusty bread for $4, and carried them home like trophies from a gentle war. That evening, Mom called from a motel in Toledo where the sign buzzed like a bee. "We'll find a place," she said. "I promise we will." Her voice was the sound of someone trying to build a bridge with thin boards. I told her I wanted her to visit when she had her own key to her own door, and when she was ready to live by my simple rules.
"I can do that," she said.
Then, after a pause, "I'm sorry for letting it get so far." I sat on the floor with my back to the blue door and told her I loved her, and that love has to work with respect or it wears out like a cheap rug. We promised to call again on Sunday. When we hung up, I wrote Sunday for PM, Mom, on the yellow pad and felt something inside me settle. In the quiet, I drew up a new budget for the spring. Internet, $78. Gas and electric, call it $85 to be honest. Water, $35. Groceries, $90 if I plan. Roof loan, $300 until July. House Joy Fund, still $25 because Joy is a bill too. I added a savings line for porch swing. Used ones in good shape start around $140. I underlined swing twice and picture myself there with a book, the chain creaking like a friendly old song. I also made a small column for New York trip with Emily, and I wrote a first goal, $200 by June, because a train ticket and a cheap room are easier to reach when they have a number. Europe can wait its turn. I will get there when the house and I have had our summer. On Friday, I brought home day-old baguettes from the bakery and made tomato soup, then invited Mrs. Green from next door to share. She came with butter and a small jar of honey and told me about her late husband, Walter, who had hands like warm bread. I told her about my grandmother, Ruth, and the blue door, and how a house can learn your name if you speak to it kindly. We ate at the kitchen island, steam ghosting up between us. Before she left, she set 2 folded 20s under the tulip vase.
"For the porch swing," she said.
A neighborhood investment. I tried to hand it back, but she shook her head. "Take it, Claire. We're all better when your door is steady." That night, I lit the lemon candle and walked the length of the house in my socks, touching the door frames like mile markers. I put the deed back in its folder and the folder back in the safe. I tucked $40 from Mrs. Green into the swing envelope, wrote the new total, $65, and slid the envelope behind the jar. Then I stood at the blue door and opened it, just to hear the hinges say yes. America's evening came in, cool and patient. My name is Claire. My house knows it. My hands know it when they turn the key, and my heart knows it when the quiet is not a warning, but a welcome. I am the woman who stayed, and the woman who chose, and the woman who opens the door.